Alright, this is going to be video number 2, and we're going to talk about writing inequalities. And when we write inequalities, there are actually two ways to do this. So we're going to go over both ways, so that way there's no confusion of how everything's going to get done. Now, I'm going to go ahead and draw myself a number line. And on that number line, I'm going to say that this is 0 in the middle. I'm going to go up to 4, 2, 3, 4, and 0 in the middle. And I'm going to go ahead and go down to -4 on the other side. Okay. And if you have a couple extra little hash marks, not a biggie. And I'm going to go ahead and open circle at -3, open circle. And I'm going to go ahead and go up. I don't care what color you use. I'm going to go ahead and go to the right. Okay. Everybody good? Okay. So there's a couple different ways that I can say this and write this, and sometimes it gets kind of confusing how to do this. So just kind of listen and pay attention, and we're just going to practice a whole bunch of times. So I know that I'm going to have an x, and if I take a look at this, my x is going to be, since everything's going to the right, is going to be greater than -3. Now, why not a greater than an equal sign? Because my open circle tells me that it's just going to be greater than -3. Okay? Now, I can write that two ways. I can write it with my x on the left-hand side, or I can have it the x on the right-hand side. Now, here's the catch. You got to remember, wherever your x is, that the fat part of my greater than sign, my biggest part to my greater than sign, has to be pointing to the x. Okay, so does everybody see that? On this one, the bigger part was pointing to my x, and over here, my bigger part is pointing to my x. So there's two ways to write these, so you're going to have to be real careful how you write them. Okay, here's the catcher now. Rewrite, so the x is on the right, or read from the variable. Okay, but I would prefer that you rewrite it so that way your x is going to be on the right. And there's a reason for that, and we'll get to that as we go through the notes today. So question number 1, or example number 1. Okay, so example number 1, I'm going to go ahead and draw my number line, and unfortunately there's lots of drawing of number lines on this stuff. My number line, I'm going to start at 0 in the middle. I'm just going to go down to -1 and -2. And +1 and +2. So I'm not going to do anything more numbers than that. If we don't have to draw super large numbers and a whole bunch of numbers, then we won't have to. And I'm going to go ahead and close circle to -1. And I'm going to go ahead and move down past -2. Okay. If you want to color that in, that's fine. Just make sure that you know that that is a closed circle there versus an open circle, because that's really, really important. Now, I know that I have an x. I know my x is less than or greater, or sorry, let me try that again. Less than or equal to -1. Or, if my x is on the other side, on the right side, I need to make sure that the pointy end is facing the x, an equal sign, and -1 on that side. So that way they're both the same. I have to read it from my x. So this says x is less than or equal to -1. on this side, it also says, because I have to read it from the x, x is less than or equal to -1. So remember, you have to read it starting from the variable. That's where the tricky part comes in. So sometimes it's easier that when you see an example like this, that you actually rewrite it and turn it into this. Here's the other neat thing about it. If your variable's on this side, okay, if my variable's on the left-hand side, does everybody see the way that the arrow's pointing? Only if my variable's on this side will my arrow be in the same direction as my line. Okay? I know that's a lot to take in. We'll go through a whole bunch of examples, I promise. Example 2. Example 2, I'm going to go ahead and draw myself my number line again. And I'm going to go ahead and start with 2, 3, and 4. And I'm going to go ahead and open circle on the 3, pointing to the right. Okay, so let's go ahead and name this. X is greater than, not equal to, just greater than, because I have an open circle, 3. Now notice when I write it with my x on the right side, yay, right side, happy face. My x is on the right side. Notice how my arrow is pointing in the same direction as my number line's going in. But sometimes you're going to see it flipped around, where my x is going to be on the other side. Big end pointing towards the x, and then a 3 comes first. Remember, you have to read it from the x. I have to start here, and I have to start here when I read it. So this is still x is greater than 3. Starting here, x is greater than 3. Example 3. And I'm going to slide this up in one moment. There we go. And example 3, yes, you got it, another number line. And I'm going to start at -8, -9, -7, and I'm going to do open circle to the left. Okay, and let's go ahead and label this again. X less than -8. And again, notice that when my x is on the left-hand side, my arrow and the direction of my graph match. This one goes to the left, this goes to the left. Or, if I flip it around, my x is going to be on this side. Match up your lines. Skinny part's going to face the x, -8. Okay? Example 4. Let me slide this up a little bit more. Number line again. And I'm going to go ahead and do 50 and 51 and 49. And I'm going to go ahead and do a closed circle on 50. That means I have to include 50. Arrow going to the right. Okay, and go ahead and write it out. X greater than or equal to 50. Or, if I flip it around, X greater than or equal to 50. Alright, how's everybody doing? Hopefully everybody's okay. Okay, one quick note and then we'll hook it on over to the next one. If the variable is on the left, your graph will go whichever way the sign is showing. Just so you kind of remember about that. So for an example, if I have x less than 2, my graph is going to be going in that way. If I have x is greater than 5, my graph's going to be going in that way. So there's benefits to stopping and making sure that you can check that and rewrite that in a way that your x is on this side. Okay? So for an example, if I had, make sure I had enough space here, 2, if it looked like this, how can I rewrite that? I'll give everybody just a few moments to go ahead and rewrite this in the proper way where your x is going to be on the left side. Okay, perfect. So my x is going to come first. Skinny part's pointing to my x. See how the skinny part's pointing here? Skinny part's going to be pointing here. And 2. So that means when I do my graph should be going in that direction. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop. What you guys need to do is get your half pages for your notebook. And we're going to practice one of them, and then we're going to go over a couple things. We'll do the other one later. But what I need you to do is get your notebook half page, and on the top of it, it says right here, let me get that here, it says write an inequality for your graph 2 ways. So go ahead and get that, make sure you're good to go, and then watch video number 3.